Finally, The Rock has come back to the Dan E Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, the most electrifying commentator in all of wrestling entertainment. Now, I don't know why WWE doesn't allow the company to say wrestling or professional wrestling. They just call it sports entertainment. I'll just say wrestling entertainment. I don't think there should be a problem with that. But either way, welcome to the show. I'm your host. And today, as you can tell by the look and the attitude I just did, today is May the 2nd. And you know what that means in JR's words. It is the day of the most electrifying man in all of entertainment, the trailblazing, eyebrow raising, butt kicking, pie eating, jabroni beating. I got it all mixed up. My apologies. But either way, as you can see by all the nicknames, today is the day of the People's Champion. And today it will be hosted by the People's Commentator. Just kidding. But all silliness aside, today is the day where I review my top 10 favorite matches from the great one himself, The Rock. So let's get started. At number 10 is The Rock versus Mankind at Survivor Series 1998. Now, the build-up for this match and the plot twist that came with it was so amazing. So, of course, there was a tournament because Stone Cold lost that breakdown. So Mr. McMahon set up a tournament involving some of the best that the early Attitude Era had to offer. And this included people like The Undertaker, Kane, etc. And so the tournament would end with The Rock, who was building himself as a fan favorite at the time, versus Mankind, who is, of course, Mr. McMahon's personal protege, and they treated him like a retard and whatnot. I don't get that. But either way, it was a match where it would see The Rock and Mankind as the final two contestants in the finals to see who would become the World Championship that night at Survivor Series. And this was the only Survivor Series where there was no traditional 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 elimination tag. One of the only, besides Survivor Series 2002, of course. But either way, excellent match between The Rock and Mankind. And the plot twist came when The Rock, after an amazing match, would put Mankind in the sharpshooter and Mr. McMahon would ring the bell, which ultimately showed that the whole time, plot twist, Mr. McMahon and Shane McMahon were all for The Rock the whole time. Also, Screwjob Part 2 took place that night also. But nothing will ever top the infamous one from the previous year in 97, which I also reviewed, by the way. So, that night, Rock versus Mankind. The Rock won his first WWE Championship, and JR so the best. Oh, God, they were in it all along. They screwed us all. JR's commentary is the best. At number 9, we have The Rock versus longtime rival of the Attitude Era, Triple H, recently retiree. So, The Rock and Triple H had an amazing rivalry from late 1999 on to 2000. They had some other great matches in the past, including the famous ladder match that took place in Madison Square Garden at Summerslam 1998. However, as they continued their rivalry in 99 to early 2000, things just got more interesting and more interesting. And The Rock won the Royal Rumble, as I covered the review from the past, but Mr. McMahon turned on The Rock at WrestleMania 2000 and aligned himself with Triple H. So the odds were stacked against The Rock. So who did The Rock call to give some assistance in his match with Triple H? He called the Rattlesnake Stone Cold Steve Austin, whom 3 days prior blew up Triple H's bus, the DX Express. But either way, great match. One of my favorite moments was when The Rock did the rock bottom to both Shane and Triple H through the announce table at the same time. But thanks to help from Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock would defeat Triple H to become, once again, the WWE World Wrestling Federation champion as it was at the time. At number 8, we have The Rock versus CM Punk at the Royal Rumble 2013. Some of you saw me put this in CM Punk's countdown last year in mid-October. But this match was really great to watch. We knew that after WrestleMania 28, The Rock said he wanted to become WWE champion again. However, standing in his way was the longest reigning champion, whose record is obviously broken by Roman Reigns, his cousin, CM Punk. CM Punk reigned really long, and ironically, during the match, when the lights went out, The Rock was going for the people's elbow, the lights went out, and ironically, it was one of the competitors that interfered in the dark would be the man who would break CM Punk's record championship reign, of course, Roman Reigns, along with Jon Moxley and Seth Rollins. Michael Cole was having a fit. It was a shield! It was a shield! We all knew it was a shield. Don't insult our intelligence. But either way, great match. Mr. McMahon was going to strip CM Punk, but The Rock insisted that the match would continue, and he would go on to defeat Punk with the people's elbow, and the crowd went nuts. At number 7, we have a triple threat match that involved The Rock, Kurt Angle, and this year's Hall of Famer, The Undertaker. This match took place at Vengeance 2002, and it was a great triple threat match. One of the funny things that happened in that match was when everybody was stealing each other's finishers, and I've lost count of who stole what. I think Undertaker stole Kurt Angle's Angle Slam. The Rock did Undertaker's Choke Slam. I think it was Kurt Angle that did the Rock Bottom, but they were just taking each other's moves left and right. But either way, despite all the move thievery, it was The Rock who would pin Kurt Angle right before The Undertaker could capitalize, because at the time The Undertaker was the WWE champion. So at the time, Kurt Angle was pinned. The Undertaker wasn't even pinned to losing the decision, which is why they say 4-ways and triple threat matches are no championship advantage. But nonetheless, great triple threat match. I encourage you to check that out. It was awesome. This would also be a night where The Rock would win his, I believe, 7th WWE championship. And speaking of WWE championships or world championships, at number 6, we have The Rock versus Booker T at SummerSlam 2001. The night The Rock won this particular championship, on the bottom right there, defeating Booker T. Now let me just throw in a quick fun fact. Number 1, this all started when The Rock had that famous segment where he said, "Who in the blue heck are you?" Also, fun fact, that is the reason Sting never came to WWE until 2014. But either way, that started the Booker T Rock rivalry, and there is a historic fact that is not often pointed out, if not at all pointed out by WWE, is that this, at SummerSlam 2001, Booker T and The Rock became the first 2 black wrestlers to main event a major pay-per-view for a high-quality championship. So, very historic moment right there. But nonetheless, it was a match where The Rock would defeat Booker T, because Booker T decided it was a good idea to do a spinneroonie in the middle of the match. Not a good idea. And it cost him because he lost, and The Rock won the WCW championship from Booker T. Now that's something we can all dig. At number 6, we have Survivor Series 2001. Now, ironically, we just did Booker T Summerslam. And this was during the time where WWE and WCW were having an invasion because Shane McMahon bought WCW and Stephanie got ECW. And first of all, it was very fun to see Tony Khan make fun of Shane where he said, I bought Ring of Honor, not Shane. That was funny. But either way, this particular match at Survivor Series was winner take all. It was an all-star team. On WCW side, you have Stone Cold, Booker T, RVD, Kurt Angle, and who else? Shane McMahon. On the other hand, you have the all-star team of The Big Show, Kane, The Undertaker, Chris Jericho, and The Rock. And with this being an amazing all-star team, it came down to the two biggest rivals of WWE at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. And when Kurt Angle came down, we already saw a double cross from Chris Jericho onto The Rock. We will see another double cross when Kurt Angle came to the ring, and we thought he was going to strike The Rock, but he ended up striking Stone Cold. The Rock would go for the rock bottom and win the match. The crowd went nuts. Howard Finkel's announcement was awesome. That will be remembered forever. Everybody in the back for WWE went nuts. Everybody for WCW and ECW's alliance was crushed, except for the people who won, like the Dudley Boys, because they won the cage match because of Jeff Hardy's recklessness, or should I say, not recklessness, but because Jeff Hardy's risk-taking didn't pan out that time. But either way, The Rock won that match, and The Rock was the sole survivor, and it was one of the greatest Survivor Series moments that will live forever. At number 4, we have Kurt Angle. The Rock versus Kurt Angle in an absolute classic at No Way Out 2001. We are just going from, it seems like right now we're just focusing on a lot of 2001. 2001 must have been a very interesting year. But either way, 2001 No Way Out live from Las Vegas. That's awesome. Those two, man, oh my goodness. We know some of you saw my review on Kurt Angle a few months ago when Kurt Angle defeated The Rock for No Mercy, winning his first championship at No Mercy 2000. But this time it was The Rock. Several months later, it was The Rock's turn. And as The Rock said, tick tock, tick tock. And I'm not talking about the app TikTok. This was way before social media and the internet was becoming so big. But either way, those two put on a classic. Kurt Angle was resilient against the rock bottom. The Rock withstood the ankle lock with Kurt Angle cursing. There was a part where Kurt Angle was just, they had to bleep Kurt because he was like, come on, Rock, tap out, you son of a biscuit. Do it now! I'll break your bleeping ankle. And his ankle lock was starting to become a thing. But nonetheless, and despite the fact that Big Show interfered, chokeslamming both of them and the referee, the match was not ruined despite the Big Show. And the match would go on to be an absolute classic, and it would take more than one rock bottom to keep Kurt Angle down. But eventually, Kurt Angle would be put down due to the rock bottom. Rock would win his championship, which would set them up for Rock versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17. But nonetheless, that match right there at No Way Out was an absolute classic. Obviously, Kurt Angle was very disappointed because he was crying afterwards. Kurt Angle is one of those men who cry. Either way, let's move on to number three. At number three, these last three matches will be WrestleMania matches. And at number three, we have Hogan versus The Rock at WrestleMania 18. And I was so fortunate to have seen this at seven. No, I think I was eight. Yeah, I was seven. Yeah, seven. I was 7.5 at the time when they had this match, and it was amazing. I was for The Rock all the way. I had just started watching it, fun fact, but I was for The Rock all the way. The fans were actually for Hulk Hogan. Most of the fans, it was like 60% of the crowd, or 65% of the crowd was for Hogan, and 45% of the crowd was for The Rock, and I was that 45% watching from home. But thankfully, The Rock won the match. I was very concerned because when I looked at how big Hogan was and the fact that this was the same guy that rammed The Rock with a semi truck, which don't try at home, you'll kill somebody. They came back, had an absolute classic. Such a classic that after the match, Hogan extended his hand despite cracking his ribs, extended his hand to The Rock, and they had a moment of sportsmanship. And they had to fight off the NWO, God rest the soul of Scott Hall, because the NWO was not buying, didn't want the sportsmanship. But nonetheless, classic, absolute classic. And of course, that would set the tone for The Rock to become a heel later on, because that's when fans started splitting from The Rock a little bit. Either way, let's go down to number two. This next match took place at the next year's WrestleMania, WrestleMania 19, The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. This match was very important to The Rock because The Rock had never beaten Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he never beat him at WrestleMania. Now, he owned a pinfall victory over Stone Cold, as I mentioned, at Survivor Series 2001. But other than that, to my knowledge, The Rock owns no pinfalls over Stone Cold Steve Austin. So this match was very important to The Rock, and it was a match that he just really had to win, and he won the match. Of course, they didn't make WrestleMania the movie, Jerry Lawler, but either way, excellent, excellent match. But tell The Rock not to wear Stone Cold's vest because it's bad luck. And of course, after that match, we thought Stone Cold would never wrestle again until Kevin Owens called him out and got his butt kicked. And I'm glad Stone Cold went out with a victory. But either way, excellent match. It took 3 rock bottoms to put Stone Cold down, by the way. At number 1. What is number 1, ladies and gentlemen? The man I reviewed a few days ago. The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania 28. This match was the bomb in my... Now, of course, The Rock had the home field advantage. Everywhere you go, you got 50-50 fan response from Cena. But this particular match between The Rock and Cena at WrestleMania 28 was a match where The Rock was... It was, I would say, 85% of the crowd was for The Rock and maybe 15% for John Cena, because there were a couple of Cena fans out there, and there was a chant while most of the fans were chanting "Fruity Pebbles," and then someone came in and chanted "Tooth Fairy" to make fun of The Rock. But it was an awesome match. We thought it was once in a lifetime, but they would face off again at the next year's WrestleMania. However, this match was 5 stars all the way. Fun fact, let me just say that WrestleMania 18 was one of my favorite WrestleManias, and WrestleMania 28 may just be another one of them, because this match, 5 stars. Now, John Cena made a mistake when he was supposed to go for the five knuckle shuffle and ended up going for the people's elbow attemptedly, but The Rock countered it for a rock bottom. And while that sent Cena into a downward spiral that he would have to get redemption for 1 year later, the fact was this match was one of my all-time favorite Rock matches. So, do you agree with this list? Which match was your favorite? Let me know in the comment section below. That's all the time I have for you today. I'm your host, Dan Cody, and I'll see you next time. If you smell what The Rock is cooking.